Okay, well, to explore what happens as we go further to the right or further to the left, okay, my zeros all occur between -4 and 3. So I'm going to go at least twice that far out this way, twice that far out this way. I'm going to go out to x equals 10 on this side and x equals -10 on this side and see what happens to my y values. Okay? Now, I'm also going to list the points that we've already plotted. When x is -4 or 1 or 3, we've already determined that y is 0. We did that right here. Okay? And when x is 0, we determined right here that y is 12. And how did we do that? Remember, we put 0 in for all our values of x and did the arithmetic. Well, how are we going to determine the value of the function for x equals 10? Well, if x is 10, we're going to plug in 10 for all the values of x, and we're going to get x minus 1 will be 10 minus 1. X plus 4 will be 10 plus 4. X minus 3 will be 10 minus 3. And we're going to figure those numbers up and multiply them out, and we get 882. Okay, I did this in my head and got that right. Then I did this in my head and screwed it up. Okay, I had one of the numbers wrong. Just being careless and also just keeping it in my head, which is harder to do than it was yesterday. Okay. And again, ignore the purple comments. I'll talk about them in a minute. If x is -10, well, this is the expression we get, and I believe we finally resolved that that ends up as -858. I finally did it in my head and got it right, and somebody said, yeah, that's what I got in the calculator, so I think that's right. It's what? You know, this number here, when I looked at it, I saw it like -10 minus 14. It's -10 plus 4. Okay? That's -6, this is -11, this is -13. 13 times 10 is 130. Add 13, you get 143. So this times this, it's two negative numbers. They multiply out to 143. Then this is -6. Well, 6 times 140 is 840. And 6 times 3 is 6 times 3 is 18. 840 and 18 is 858. And it's negative because this number is negative. So that agrees here. Okay. Well, what does that do to our expectation of the graph? Well, that means if we come out to x equals 10, which isn't even all that far out. If 3 is here, 10's about here. So if we do our point on the graph here, we're going to have a much longer blackboard. Matter of fact, it's going to maybe have to be about 100 feet high. 50 to 100 feet. Yeah, it's going to have to be pretty high. Fatal height. If you fall from that height, you die, so I don't want to get up there and write on it, so I'm not going to do that. Also, it just tells us that the graph between here and here it's going to get really, really steep really, really fast. Okay? And if we go over here, if we go over a little more than twice this far to the left, we're going to have to drill it well about 100 feet deep to plot this point. Okay? Means the graph is going to go down here, it's going to get steeper and steeper, and it's going to get very steep. And clearly then, you could check it, go out to 20 and to -20. Okay? I think if you go out to 20, this number is going to get about 4 times bigger. It's going to be probably close to 4,000, and it's probably close to -4,000. Okay? It's just going to get even steeper as you go from 10 to 20. You can think about those numbers and see why I would say that. Okay? Now, the idea is that all our zeros are in here. So if we go out a good bit further here, what's that going to do? Well, you notice that all 3 of these numbers are positive, right? Because if I go out to the right of any of these numbers, then this minus this is going to be positive, this minus this is going to be positive, and this minus this is going to be positive, right? So I'm going to end up with 3 positive numbers. And if I multiply 3 decent-sized positive numbers together, I'm going to get a much, much bigger positive number. Okay? And then if I go out 10 to negative 10, I'm going to be to the left of all these numbers, so I know that this minus this is negative, this minus this is negative, this minus this is negative. In other words, all 3 of these numbers are going to be negative. So when I multiply 3 negatives, I'm going to get a negative. And if I go, the further I go out there, they're still going to be negative. Anytime I'm to the left of negative 4, I'm going to get 3 negatives. So my result is going to be negative. And the further I go, the bigger this number gets. Okay? I said this would be in the 4,000s. I'm going to say, no, actually, I think it's going to be in the vicinity of 10,000, probably a little less than that, up to the probably 8,000s. And that's just an estimate. I could do it in my head and get a better estimate, but you work it out, you'll see. The numbers get much bigger, much faster as we go further to the right or further to the left. So again, if we're to the right of these 3 numbers, then all of these factors would be positive. If we're to the left of these 3 numbers, all these factors would be negative. So if we're to the right of these 3 numbers, our product is going to be positive. If we're to the left of these 3 numbers, our product is going to be negative. And the further we go to the right or the further we go to the left, the bigger the number is going to be. Okay? Okay, well, that's a basic thing that we need to understand. Now let me go to the purple comments before we look at a different graph.